Good morning and welcome to the Peorian. I'm your host, Paul Gordon. For many years now, probably the 30 or so that I've followed it, local news anyway, people have speculated whether Caterpillar Incorporated will always keep its headquarters in Peoria. After all, this is a pretty small city for the likes of Caterpillar, a Fortune 50 company and the top heavy equipment manufacturing company in the world. That speculation has grown in the last couple of decades as Caterpillar has reduced the number of manufacturing employees that it has in its Peoria area factories. Then the stuff really hit the fan about a year and a half ago when Caterpillar Chairman Doug Oberhelman wrote to Illinois Governor Pat Quinn about how tough it was to do business in this state. Oberhelman told the governor that Caterpillar was being courted heavily by other states, and that pushed the fear of the company's departure to fever pitch. Well, since then, the speculation has calmed. Oberhelman said on this very program on January 1st of this year that Peoria is and will remain Caterpillar's home. The company is now ready to prove it. It is now studying whether to upgrade its current headquarters building or acquire other downtown Peoria property for a new headquarters campus. Peoria is the only place that it's looking at. Company spokesman Jim Dugan is my guest today, and we'll discuss those plans and where exactly the company is looking when we come back. Welcome back to the Peorian. My guest today is Jim Dugan, Chief Corporate Spokesman for Caterpillar Incorporated. Thanks for being here, Jim.
Great to be here today, Paul. Thanks.
It would appear that plans now being made for a new headquarters building in Peoria would once and for all convince people that Caterpillar is not going anywhere. Has it done that yet, though?
Well, not sure if it has convinced people of that or not, but we have in fact announced that we're conducting a feasibility study looking at all the options for our headquarters footprint, not just the administration building as people know it at 100 Northeast Adams Street, but the overall footprint that we think we need in Peoria, and we were very clear about that when we first announced it, in Peoria, the footprint for our headquarters as we look to the future. And so that's really where we're at with the study. It is a study and will take several months as we try to better understand kind of that long-term plan and where we think we need to go, for the next 40, 50 years, if you will, as far as the headquarters structure is concerned in Peoria.
At this point, there is no real time frame, correct?
Relatively speaking, what we've said is it'll take several months to do this study. And after the study is conducted, the information and recommendations will be brought to our executive office and ultimately likely to our board of directors, as we would typically do for a project potentially of this nature and scale. And once we get some direction, if you will, at that point, we would then look to take the next steps. Likely, the thinking is that would be sometime probably early next year where we might have a little bit more solid information, if you will, directionally on where we think we'd be headed once the study is concluded.
Is the board solidly behind this plan at this point?
Well, again, we're at a study phase right now, and so the board is certainly aware that we are undertaking the study and directionally that we're looking at if you will, the future of our footprint for our headquarters operations in Peoria. And so that's where the study comes in, and a lot of information being gathered. And we'll take that all into consideration and bring a proposal forward. Again, probably late this year would be the best estimate at this point. And then, again, likely early next year at some point, we'd probably have some more significant news to share in terms of where we think the specific direction is for the headquarters facility and complex, if you will.
Questions I get more often than not about it are, why does Caterpillar think they need a new headquarters building?
Well, there's a couple of things on that, and that's something I think we anticipated a lot of people would wonder about. We haven't determined for sure if the current building will exist or be reconfigured or renovated, or if we'll have a new building or maybe a campus setting. Again, all of those things I think are up for review and study. Kind of taking if you will, a clean sheet approach to try to determine what we think the best approach would be for Caterpillar, for our employees, for our customers ultimately, and for this community as well, we hope. The headquarters building now, what's commonly called the administration building by Caterpillar employees, opened in 1967. And so it's been around for a long time, but if you think back to 1967, people were using rotary dial phones. They were mostly sending mail or memos as opposed to email, which is how most communication, or a great deal of communication, happens now. And so, the world has changed quite dramatically in that time period. And one of the things that's driving this study is to look at the infrastructure, if you will, of that building, not just the physical building, but as it was opened in 1967. A lot has changed in that time frame. Is that the structure we need, and does it have the infrastructure within it, if you will, that we need? Not just for today. Obviously, we're doing business today, and it's functioning as such. But again, we're looking out 30, 40, 50 years from now, and we want to think very thoughtfully and carefully about where we think we might need to go with, either a headquarters building or a complex of buildings, or whatever the case may be.
With technology the way it is today, why does any building need the kind of infrastructure that it used to have?
Well, again, obviously you can retrofit, if you will, and make adjustments within the four walls of a building to make it work. And certainly we have done that at the headquarters building, and other companies and businesses do the same. But as we think about again, not only the technical infrastructure, but we think about the nature of our business and how much Caterpillar has grown since 1967. We were a $60 billion company last year. We have about 132,000 employees around the world. We bring in a large number of customers and other visitors to Peoria every year for a variety of different reasons. We want to look at the whole picture and try to determine, with all of those pieces of the puzzle factoring in, how do we want to balance our presence, our employees, our people, within all the divisions we have, in addition to, as I said, the actual physical infrastructure that we have in place. But again, if you think about 1967 and how much the world has changed from a technical standpoint, a lot of things to take into consideration.
Okay. When we come back, we'll continue talking about this issue. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Peorian. I'm Jim Dugan, Chief Corporate Spokesman for Caterpillar Incorporated, and we're talking about the company's plans to do something with its administration building in Peoria. As was mentioned earlier, Jim, the current headquarters building is, in a word, outdated. Almost 50 years old.
Opened in 1967, so a lot has changed in that time. The company is a much larger company than we were certainly in 1967. A lot of technology has changed, as we talked about. So yes, we really felt it was time to take a look, a clean sheet of paper at the current structure and our overall footprint, if you will, in Peoria for our headquarters, and try to come up with this plan for where we think we want to go for the next, again, 30, 40, 50 years or so for a headquarters presence.
Well, is the present thinking, with the study still going on, that the most likely or the most wise investment would be a totally new administration building rather than trying to refurbish, renovate, whatever, the current building?
Well, again, I think all options are open, but certainly one of the things that's being considered, and one of the things we're looking at, is exactly that. Do we take the current structure and somehow do a renovation of that, an updating of that, if you will, theoretically keep the shell and do a lot of work on the inside to reconfigure and update? Or do we look at an all-new building or a series of buildings? Again, when we talk about trying to take a clean sheet of paper, look at this, we're really trying to do that. And there are just a lot of variables that go into play. Certainly, cost is one of those. If you think about renovating the current building, if you will, there are a lot of people who come to work every day in that building, and working with a building either under renovation or could be challenging and create issues in and of itself, or if you had to essentially, for a temporary period under renovation, empty the building, and then you've got a lot of people and you need to figure out, temporarily anyway, where would they go to work on a regular basis. So all of those things are pieces that are being considered, again, in the overall context of this study. Again, to your first question, I think, and hopefully we've made this clear, this is a commitment to a global headquarters in Peoria, and what we're studying is what do we think that headquarters presence is going to look like exactly in Peoria, whether it's renovating that building, building a new building, or a series of buildings. That's really what we're focused on. But some of those challenging issues under renovation are things we'll have to factor in.
Well, in that vein, already the public is speculating wildly about where you're going to build this. And if it's going to be a whole new headquarters campus, where's it going to go? People are saying, Madison Theater spot, that block, well, that's not going to be big enough for a whole campus. And you've got the federal building in that block. Other people are saying the riverfront, including the pad where Joe's Crab Shack and the Heartland Partnership offices now are. Others are saying, build it out from the riverfront, out toward Taft Homes in that area. Are all of those areas being looked at?
Well, I don't think we'd be very wise to get into the specifics, other than to say that we are looking at a clean sheet of paper and at the options that would make the most sense for Caterpillar. Certainly, we have the property where the headquarters building is now located. We've got across the street from that essentially another square block. We have a parking deck on that. Across Hamilton from that, there is a parking lot that we utilize as well. And so we do already have some space in downtown Peoria existing very near our headquarters building. That's not to say that there aren't other options that we can and could look at, but I don't think we want to get too far down the path of suggesting where we might or might not look, or what might or might not be on the table before we finish up the study. Certainly, that would probably not be healthy for anyone involved, although I'm sure some people would like to know those details. But the honest truth is, we yet haven't determined really what that plan is, and that's really what the study is for.
Okay. When we come back after a break from some messages from our sponsors, we're going to talk about another new Caterpillar building that will open in a couple of months, the Caterpillar Visitor Center. First, here is our own Kevin Kaiser to talk about what he's been up to in that vast literary world.
Good morning, Peoria. Welcome to me. This week, it's another episode of Kevin Reads Stuff So You Don't Have To, and our book is A Labyrinth of Kingdoms, 10,000 Miles Through Islamic Africa by Steve Kemper. The book is about the German explorer and scientist Heinrich Barth, who joined a small British expedition into the unexplored regions of Islamic North and Central Africa. And his story rivals those of Burton and Stanley in excitement and surpasses them in scientific achievement. The leader of the expedition, James Richardson, and Barth were exact opposites in temperament. Barth was a well-traveled explorer who was strong, vigorous, and active, and there was nothing he hated more than sitting around, let alone traveling in a slow camel caravan. For Richardson, on the other hand, exploring was a task to him. He wasn't in a terrible hurry, and the differences between the two men can be seen in their first entries in their private diaries on the expedition. Richardson's reads, "We are already busy with preparation for our start to the interior," whereas Barth reads, "Unfortunately, our stay in Merzerk seems likely to become a very long one," and Barth was proven right. Not only was Richardson slow to action, he also grossly underestimated the monetary needs of the expedition. Once the expedition was underway, Barth would often ride off on his own, unattended, to explore by himself. Not a smart thing for a Christian in those days. But he'd done his homework. Barth was fluent in Arabic and the Quran, which came in handy when faced with Islamic tribes and warriors. Richardson and the Brits were not. One by one, Barth's companions died, but Barth carried on alone, which he preferred, and he finally reached the fabled city of gold, Timbuktu. His journey took 5.5 years and 10,000 miles, ranking among the greatest journeys in the history of modern exploration. His journals include 12,000 dated entries with itineraries, local vocabularies, tribal divisions, and cultural reports. He had very precise writing, which was uncommon for the day, and was able to neatly fit 500 words on a page. Naturally, there are all kinds of interesting tidbits. For instance, in Zinder, social equals greeted each other with high or low fives, while those with lower social standing would drop to their knees and throw dust in their hair. The lower their standing, the greater the cloud of dust. A similar social hierarchy can be found in Peanuts cartoons. In another case, after giving a small package of medicine to a village emir, the emir asked Barth for something that would increase his conjugal vigor. Oh, and fireworks. Well, in his defense, those are two things that unite all men no matter the age or era. So there you go, A Labyrinth of Kingdoms, 10,000 Miles Through Islamic Africa by Steve Kemper. And that completes another episode of Kevin Reads Stuff So You Don't Have To. As always, you are welcome.
I'm back talking to Jim Dugan of Caterpillar, and we're going to switch gears a little bit here, Jim. We've been talking about plans for the new headquarters building, and right before the break I said we're going to talk about the new Caterpillar Visitor Center, which opens October 20th.
Very excited about that.
Are you?
Yes, we are. It's a great investment, we think, for our business. Certainly also for Peoria. The Visitor Center itself is about a $37.5 million investment, 50,000 square feet. As you know, we bring thousands and thousands of customers into Peoria and the Peoria area every year from around the world. And they tour the facilities and they meet at our building, but this visitor center will be an important new element for especially those customers. It'll be available to the public as well, and we certainly hope people will enjoy it for that reason, but we feel also a very good business reason with all those customers coming